Well, salutations, fellow idiots. Welcome to another episode of Nocturnal Emissions. We are joined once again by Mason, Egan, aka Megan, and Jester Mikey.
Hello there, everybody. What's up? How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. A lot better now that we're jumping into our Puppet Master 2 discussion today. This is a film that we were supposed to hit over the course of the weekend here. I mean, I guess we're still coming through on it. I had a bit of a situation develop yesterday, so we had to delay it a little bit. But we've got it up and going now, and I think it's going to be a good time. One of the better sequels in horror history, in my opinion. We're going to get the tale of the tape to you guys right now, and then we are going to go ahead and do our, sort of history with the film and first impressions like we've done in the past. So Puppet Master 2 was written by David Pabian and directed by David Allen himself. It was produced by Charles Band. Of course, it stars Elizabeth McClellan, Colin Burnson, Gregory Webb, Charlie Spradling, Steve Wells, Jeff Weston, Ivan G. Ratto, Sage Allen, George Buckflower, and Nita Talbot. It had cinematography by Thomas F. Denove, or Denove, I don't know how you say that. It was edited by Bert Gladstein and Peter Teschner. It has music by Richard Band, of course. It was distributed by Full Moon Entertainment and Paramount Pictures, and it was released on February 7th of 1991. It's got a cool runtime of 88 minutes, so just about an hour and a half, and a pretty decent poster to match. So we all have a good history with this film, I'm sure. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Mason, and we'll just do the round table thing. When were you first exposed to Puppet Master 2? And, how did you find it in comparison to the first one?
Well, for Puppet Master 2, that was basically from when I first discovered film, when kind of looking at trailers for the films, and when I kind of come across the Puppet Master 2 trailer. In a way, like the first trailer, I kind of found myself intrigued, especially with sort of like the core new puppet of the film, Tortured, which I'll get to later. So when I actually ended up watching the film through the Full Moon archive box set, I found it pretty enjoyable. In a way, it kind of expanded more from the first film, because the puppets actually get more screen time. We actually dive more into the actual puppet master, Andre Toulon, which we haven't really got to know that well in the first film, as he blew his brains out. And the gore kind of becomes more fun instead of the more bloody. So yeah, overall, pretty good.
Alright, when I first saw Puppet Master 2, it was in a video store. I rented it at Blockbuster. I was there when my dad took me to Blockbuster, and we rented Puppet Master 2, and I watched it, and it was really good. And I got into Full Moon after that. I saw Puppet Master 3, on the Sci-Fi Channel later on that year, and I finally got to see Puppet Master 1. And Puppet Master 1, Puppet Master 2, it's like, you don't see the puppets that often. The Puppet Master himself, Andre Toulon, is only in the beginning, because then he shoots himself, kills himself. Then Puppet Master 2, the puppets bring him back to life. They're shown more often, he's with them more often, and Torch comes in, and there's more adventure. They're shown more often, and there's more action.
Hello? Oh.
Well, the internet just kicked me plumb out the stream. Anyway, you were saying, Mikey, yeah, you get to see the puppets more often and Toulon more often, and I think I missed the tail end of what you were saying there.
It's like they do more things than in the first one, because they're shown more often.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the deal with this. It's this movie kind of hits a lot of the same beats as the first film, but you just get more of it. You get a bigger, better version of it. The production and everything is clearly like the most refined it's maybe been, especially with the stop motion and the way that they're generating the atmosphere in this thing. Sadly, something they lost a little bit of with David Allen's death and the revamps that they did to the series later on. But I think in terms of the visual aesthetic of Puppet Master, this movie kind of nails it the best, maybe, of all of them. And it's a great sequel, you know? I don't remember exactly in the order of my full moon viewing initially where I saw Puppet Master. It had to have been pretty quickly. I mean, the first one rocked. And so naturally you're in there and you're noticing that there's sequels and just renting those. I really loved this movie right out of the gate the first time that I watched it, because it has like this kind of almost creepy gothic Universal Monsters vibe going on with it to a certain extent. But then it has the balls to maybe be a little bit more overtly comedic in certain ways and a little bit more sinister in certain ways. I mean, Torch kills a fucking kid, which we will get to at some point in this. It's a great sort of unsung sequel in the franchise too, as me and Mason were talking about before we went live. It sort of occupies that same space in its respective franchise as like Freddy's Revenge does, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. It's a great sequel. Almost all the shit was sort of immediately retconned from it, and they went in a totally different direction with the series. And it's not often a sequel that gets listed as people's favorite Freddy movie, but it's always in the conversation of the best sequels. And I think Puppet Master 2 is right there with it. I mean, I'm sure we all appreciate the direction they took the Toulon character in later on, but I was super fucking creeped out by this version of him as a kid, especially during the finale sequence, which we'll talk about, rest assured. But I loved it, man. I loved Torch, you know. I love that the puppet kills were like more intense in this one. The first one, they save a lot of that intensity for like the final dismantling of the villain dude. This one, it's pretty evenly spread out throughout the entire film, so that gives you a lot of fun stuff to look at. And, you know, obviously introducing a new puppet like Torch and this being a sequel itself, it, you know, opens up a lot of possibilities for the character that we were all very excited to see, and we didn't get much of them delivered. But man, does he get a lot of good action in this film, and that is a delicious, immaculate replica there, sir.
Yes, thank you. This is the 30th anniversary replica of Torch they came out with a few years ago. Here's the certificate for authenticity. 30th anniversary replica of Torch.
Dude,
Yep.
the way those eyes.
This is the best replica of Torch so far. This is kind of like an actual screen-use Torch because it's got the eyes light up, but it just doesn't shoot out fire.
Would be cool if it did, though. I'm sure it's not a hard modification to make. We could build a flamethrower into that guy.
Yeah, we probably could. I'll bring it in my backyard and it could shoot out like 3 feet of fire like in my backyard. I would have to make like a little video on that.
Or maybe just like attach a lighter to it, like put a lighter inside his little flame thrower, kind of end up sparking a little flame like that. Though, of course, it's not too much, but enough to actually almost like he's like a walking candle lighter.
That could be cool, but I like Mikey's idea of it shooting 3 feet of flame. That sounds pretty fucking badass. Go big or go home, right? Yeah, we didn't really get much Torch later in the movies, but after rewatching this again, honestly can't complain too much about it, you know? I mean, I would have loved a lot more Torch in later movies, but his debut is so kick-ass that it's no wonder why he's such a beloved puppet out of the cast, even though he's probably the one with the least amount of screen time. I mean, he's got so little screen time, he has to be credited for appearances, I think, on the wiki in ones where he just showed up in, like, flashback footage, you know? which is just weird. I wonder why they didn't do. You guys know more insider full moon stuff than I do. Do you have any insight on why we didn't get more Torch? Was there like ever a reason given for that, or is it just something that kind of happened?
I don't know. I know in Axis Termination, he was supposed to be in Axis Termination, but he was cut out of the storyline somehow. That's probably what I'm thinking. He was cut out in the storyline, some of the movie somehow. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and he's like one of the coolest puppets too. Like I would like to see him more.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know why you have to have some elaborate spot for him in the story. He just needs to stand there, look rad, and burn shit. That's it. What were you gonna say, Mason?
I was going to say, I think it's like a mix of sort of budgetary reasons and trying to keep in touch with the continuity. As for like I said, in this, like with this film being its debut, they actually show his creation. So if when doing a prequel, he can't really be in it because, well, he wasn't created at that time. And for like the budgetary reasons, like he actually shoots like an actual flame, which has to be for a lot of costly reasons, like having a flame retardant shoot, have fire extinguishers on the line to keep the fire calm and all that stuff. But yeah, in a way, I still would have worked in a way like he doesn't always have to like shoot flames in every film appearance. Like I know, like one time there's actually one film later on where a leech woman doesn't cough up a leech in the film. So in a way,
yeah, I mean, there's workarounds for it, and he's got a head spike. You know, we don't know that flamethrower couldn't detach, and there's like another weapon behind it. There's all sorts of stuff he could do. He could even just fucking stand there and look cool, and it would be awesome to have Torch in the movie. So I just don't get how they worked him out of it. I mean, yes, you do bring up a good point. There is certain, precautions that need to be taken for having open fucking flame on a set, especially as much as Full Moon real grand back in these days. It's still relatively smaller, low budget sets. It's more intimate. The people probably are less professional running around there. Someone could get burned, I suppose. It's probably still worth it though. Those risks are like worth compensating for and putting a little money behind to have a puppet that can set fools on fire. It just seems like, for whatever reason they felt like he wasn't catching on, maybe, or they felt obligated to stick with the more classic puppets until they introduced dudes like Six Shooter and shit like that. I don't know, man. It's just odd to me that we didn't get more Torch, or that they never really explained his creation either. Do we ever get any kind of a insight into where the hell he comes from? He's just sort of here in this movie.
Well, maybe in the comic book series, because I heard his former identity is Eric Toulon, I think. I only read the comic books a couple times, but that might be it.
It could be. You'd know better, I think, Mason. You've read them, haven't you?
Yeah. In the comics, it kind of reveal that he was actually Andre Toulon's son. So like where like when the films themselves, Tunnel, Torch, and later on 6 Years backstories were pretty much anonymous. You have to look at other material to figure out who they were
Right.
and how they know Toulon.
So wait a minute. Then why wouldn't Torch have been? I mean, I get that it's like retroactively inserted information that it's his son, but maybe that might have been a mistake too. Because how does that make any sense that Toulon would wait through like a couple of different waves of puppets before reanimating his son as one of the puppets? You'd think he would do that right away. Must not have liked the kid very much.
I mean, I kind of think it should come more reason like it would have been nice if he actually appeared in Access Termination, for one idea was basically like he was actually amongst the Nazi puppets that we get to later on, like because he kind of seemed like the kind of character who started off as an enemy of the puppets and then turned to an ally sorts. I mean, he is basically has a weapon that can actually kill them.
Right. And, he does look a lot more Nazi'd out than the other puppets, too, which also could have been a factor and not. but then they went swastika crazy with the third movie. There's actual Nazis in that. So I don't think that they didn't put Torch in him because he looked too Nazi-esque. Because when you think about it, I mean, like, prior to Torch, Tunneler is the one that reminds you the most of, like, that Third Reich Nazi shit. And even his uniform, I'm not an expert, but I think his uniform is more reminiscent of, like, just regular German army. Torch looks like a fucking, he's rocking a Gestapo uniform, you know. I mean, sans the fucking swastika armband, you know. But other than that, he looks like one of those brown shirt dudes that would go like kick people's doors in and arrest them. So they channeled a lot more of that aesthetic with the character, and then the way his like teeth are bullets, and the whole design of the puppet is fucking rad. You know, so that's why I just don't get it. Like, if I was making a Puppet Master movie back then and they told me, oh, well, you can't do Torch because we don't want to deal with the fire on set and everything like that, I would have taken your route and just been like, fine, he can do other shit. I mean, you know, Jester even gets like assists and he doesn't have any powers or abilities really. His head just spins around, you know? So if they can make that puppet be like the absolute king of the assist kills in the franchise, I don't see why Torch couldn't have been right there with them. They could have had some badass team up kills together or something. And then at the end of the day, you can do, like I said, and just have them like kind of in the background, just looking cool, and it still adds something to the movie. So I don't know. It is a bummer. I mean, we're not going to spend the whole time talking about how we wish we had more Torch, but you know, we're thinking it in our hearts because, man, is he awesome. So basic plot of this film is the lady at the end of the previous movie, the lady that reanimated the pooch and was like the new puppet master, I guess, had been found killed with her brain extracted from her fucking nose, like Egyptian mummification style. Alex Whitaker, who, you know, had since went mad, I guess, even though he seemed totally fine at the end of the movie, but apparently he went insane because of what he witnessed in the first film or something. He ends up being accused of the murder and locked up. You know, he's like in an insane asylum, and he's having all of these like, you know, psychotic ramblings in there that everyone's just writing off as craziness. But this particular girl like listens to it and thinks there's something to it, so she decides to put together a team to investigate. She ends up sent out to the Bodega Bay Inn again, and you know, looking into the events of the first film, pretty much investigating to see if there is any paranormal activity out there. It very much reminds me of Poltergeist, you know, where they have like the monitors set up and they're trying to basically capture like spooks and spirits or anything that bumps in the night to try to explain what went on there and the disappearance of this group of psychics, you know. I would have thought somebody at the end of that first film would have explained to the authorities that these people were killed. But then again, you know, that lady was probably trying to protect the secret of the puppets. Alex Whitaker honestly seemed like he didn't give a shit at the end of the movie. So I don't understand why that guy's been driven to insanity but from his experiences, but whatever. You know, it sets up the plot for this film, and that's that these people are there to investigate what happened. You even have sort of a similar setup with the group of people. You've got Camille Kenny, who is basically this movie's version of Dana Hadley. She's like a nicer, less drunk version of Dana. And then you've got, you know, the group of kids, which is basically the main chick. Hold on, I got her name right here. Carolyn Bramwell. She's up there with her brother Patrick. And then, you know, their friends that are basically along for the ride with them, Lance and Wanda. And that makes up our paranormal investigation team with their resident psychic, Camille. You know, because you got to have at least one psychic involved if you're going to go investigating this kind of stuff. She's no Zelda from Poltergeist, and she's no Dana Hadley, but she seems like a nice lady. And she makes for a pretty cool twist at the end of this movie that I've always found very amusing. But basically, they're up there investigating the shit. You know, the puppets have resurrected Toulon with a little tiny piece of, I believe it's Megan was the name of the chick in Puppet Master. Yeah, Megan Gallagher little tiny piece of her brain they used to make a batch of the serum, enough to resurrect Toulon, because they're starting to get weaker on account of not having the serum. They need more of it, and they, I guess, need Toulon to make it, even though they seemed very capable of making the batch they used to resurrect him. So maybe a slight flaw in the logic there. But either way, it gets us badass Doctor Doom, Invisible Man, fucking Toulon, who shows up and is basically commanding the puppets to kill people, take itty bitty little chunks of their brain, and use it to make this gross, milky brain soup that he's going to turn into the serum so that he can put himself in a new body and I guess try to, have sweet romance with, Carolyn, excuse me, because he believes her to be the resurrected, like, reincarnation of his wife. I don't know. I mean, I like the whole gimmick of the movie, them collecting the brain bits or whatever to make the serum. I think it gives the puppets a little bit more of a purpose as opposed to just running around aimlessly killing people because their puppet master is bad. That's kind of what it is in the first one. In this one, they've got an actual mission, which is to collect brains for this dude's gross milk serum. Right there, that's the gimmick of the video game that they could have made. That'd have been sweet, just collecting brains, competing with your friends to see who could collect more brains. What do you guys think of the gimmick of this? Would you guys enjoy the premise of this film here?
Yeah, I kind of enjoy the premise. Almost, but like even if Toulon once Puppet Master wasn't seemed corrupted, they, in a way, when the first film is kind of more along the lines of the puppets kind of being sort of like neutral, controlled by a cook guy. In a way, this is sort of like more, they're kind of like more evil in this, as they're basically killing people just for their own personal gains. So then again, there is sort of like this sort of sympathy, like they don't actually want to do it, since later on in the movie they decide to go into like gathering dead animal brains for the serum, almost like this spare less, more human lives of sorts.
Right, that's a good point. What do you think, Mike?
I think it's really cool about this gimmick, and it's like fighting for survival, because the puppets have to kill people or animals to collect the brains and to create the serum to keep them alive, and that's what they did to Megan Gallagher. They killed and took out her brain to create the serum to bring Toulon back to life, and kill more people and animals to collect more brain fluid, and to create the serum to keep them alive, and for the Toulon to transfer his soul into that new body. So they become their own selves again. That's why they have to kill people and animals to survive, so they become their own selves again. And I believe, the puppets are like the most evil in this movie, I believe, yes. Because they gotta kill people to collect the brain.
True enough. I do love that Mason pointed out that they do kind of hesitate on actually taking humans, and they do try to pass off some animal brains because it saves the puppets from being completely villainized, right? Like even in the first movie, and especially with the finale of the first movie, these puppets are far too charming to just be 100% evil. But I do also like that they went back to the well and had them used for evil designs again right out of the gate. I think if they'd made the puppets like the friendly heroes of the movie right away in the second film, it would have taken away some of the impact of that developing later. And I don't know if it would have been as enjoyable. It might have came across as a little cheesy, but having this second movie right out of the gate where the puppets are still being used for some dastardly shit while still maintaining a little bit of their conscience, it sets them up to be much more lovable later when they're actually the good guys of the movies. I love it, man. I think it's, the idea of Toulon making himself this creepy tourist trap mannequin body to inhabit is gross and creepy, and the way he transfers himself into it is just so fucking metal, where he's like slits his own throat into that funnel and drains his blood into the gullet, and then all of a sudden he's even creepier than he has been in the entire movie, which is pretty goddamn creepy. I love how he builds, like, his first order of business after being resurrected is to build himself a Dr. Doom suit to house his rotting fucking corpse. masterful. I mean, it's, I think David Allen is pretty much responsible for a lot of what makes this movie awesome. It's kind of like he got his chance to have a crack at doing the first movie, but better. And that's sort of what it seems like he went for. I think Puppet Master 2 is one of those rare sequels that could actually work as the first movie in the franchise, Like, you almost don't super need the events of the first film to have happened to have this movie take place. The events of the first film could have been like a little bumper at the beginning of this. And then this could have worked as like the launch movie for the series. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys think that that's feasible, what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I think that could work. Like maybe like keep the like the first opener with like Toulon committing suicide, then cut to a few later like this. So this mass could kind of leads on to the sort of his resurrection action by the puppets who use sort of the brain fluids of the victims they've killed to bring them back, leading on to the events of this film where they had to get more of this serum, so they had to kill more people.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you almost don't even need to have had, because when we get right down to it, the events of the first film are just kind of the setup for this, right? Like, they don't spend a ton of time talking about the psychics that got killed in the first movie or any of those events. They just really say, like, oh, this happened, this dude went crazy, this lady got her brain pulled out her nose. They think he did it, but we really think it was these puppets. And, we believe his story, so we're here to investigate it. They could have just been there investigating Toulon in general because it was where he died. I mean, you could have set it up to be basically the first movie, but without them being psychics. They're just there looking into this legend of this puppet master who supposedly stashed these puppets there. They could have said there was like sightings of the puppets through the years or something. I mean, you don't really need, as much as we love Dana Hadley and Alex Whitaker's helmet hair and everything about the first movie, it's not super necessary to have this take place. Would you have enjoyed this as the first film in the franchise, Mikey?
Yeah, I definitely would have joined it with the Puppet Master killing himself, and then the puppets bringing him back to life with the serum and everything, and finding out what went on and everything. Yeah, I would enjoy.
Yeah, it works. And I guess, you could almost say the same thing about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, which, this is very similar to in certain ways. But even that, I think, the first movie is a little bit more of a requirement. Now, that said, I would never get rid of that first Puppet Master movie. I love it. I think we all love it. But it's just interesting to think about that it's, this movie kind of recreates it. Like, it's almost a remix of the first movie, just with David Allen behind the helm. Much better stop motion, better effects, and arguably cooler villain. As much as we liked the old fucking, what's his ass? What the hell was his name?
Neil
Gallagher. Neil Gallagher. I don't know why I wanted to say Nick for a minute. As much as Neil Gallagher's like slimy and gross at the end of Puppet Master 1, Toulon blows him out of the fucking water in this movie, man. I mean, the guy is disgustingly creepy through the whole movie. And then it somehow also only gets fucking worse at the end, Like, you don't think he could possibly get grosser or creepier, and then boy does it ever. He's the perfect villain. I think we touched on it a little bit in the first one, didn't we? But I think, Toulon from this one is probably the best villain in the franchise, maybe. He's just so perfect. And, them turning on the Puppet Master at the end of this has a little bit more impact than it did with Neil, because Toulon actually created these dudes, but he got so swept up in his own pursuits and it turned him so evil that they finally had to dismantle his ass again. I love how it's even sort of similar dismantling to Neil Gallagher's, only just grosser because he's like a big ceramic mannequin filled with goo. And it's just such a good touch. I think if anybody else did a sequel like this and just basically did the first movie 2.0 like this kind of is. Well, I mean, it's happened, you know, but this is pretty one for one a recreation of the first movie in a lot of ways. I think I'd be annoyed if it was any other group of people that did it, but David Allen and all the people behind this just make it charming, you know. Jester, I hardly know her. Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks for that. That was good. That's good stuff. I don't know. I guess we could talk about some of the kills. That's really the main thing about this. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about the original cast of puppets in the first film, and they're all back and adorable as ever, you know, going around plucking folks' brain stems or whatever it is. We talked a bit about Torch, and you know, he's really kind of the main addition to this movie. And you know, other than that, we've got Charlie Spradling up in there being pretty awesome. I think that she's probably the highlight of the movie for me character-wise, but I just have always had kind of a crush on Charlie Spradling a little bit. It's hard not to after you watch Meridian. But yeah, it's, you know, she's just good in it. I think the whole cast of characters in it is actually maybe slightly more likable on like a human level than the characters in the first movie. Lance is a bit of a butthole, but you know, he's drinking too much wine. He's following in Dana Hadley's steps. I did find that kind of an interesting dynamic. How in the first movie, you got the drunk psychic lady that's kind of like the antagonist of the rest of the cast. And in this one, it's kind of flipped and reversed. Like you've got a non-psychic dude that's just kind of a drunk butthole, and he's being really mean to the psychic lady, which is just weird because Camille seems like a super, super nice lady. I don't know. Even if you think that her psychic shit is kind of phony, I don't know if I would come at her like that, man. I mean, she's nice and she showed up to this thing. So I think that the main thing he gives her shit for is like writing this psychic column for the newspaper or whatever. And that's not even that crazy. Lots of people take comfort in getting their horoscopes or their tarot read or whatever. I mean, I don't believe in any of that shit, but you know, for instance, my girlfriend does, and I've never given her shit about it. I mean, I bought her tarot cards and stuff, or tarot books. I haven't actually bought the cards before. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't know. It's a bit like, it's almost like religious intolerance or something. I mean, like, what do you care, dude? She's here to help with your little investigation. If she's useful, she's useful. If she's not, she's not. And this time around, they've got a ton of technology to help them prove this too. So there's just no need to be that mean to the nice old psychic lady. But she's in the movie like even less than the fucking housekeeper and Puppet Master 1. Like she gets knocked out and they're just hanging out with her corpse through most of the shit. They have her in the dumbwaiter. That part makes me laugh so fucking hard, dude. She's just all brown and gross and dead in the dumbwaiter. I'm glad that they brought her back at the end because she was just kind of unceremoniously bumped off in this movie. Do we even actually see her get killed, or they just kind of like put a gag around her mouth and drag her off camera? I don't remember.
No, they just they wrap her mouth, they wrap the thing around her mouth, and they just pull her out. We don't see how she gets killed.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, her death was pretty much off screen. Though it's kind of a note, despite this is kind of just his technical first kill in the franchise, as he basically like helped Pinhead take out Camille by basically gagging her mouth.
It is his first assist. That's right. Yeah. In the first movie, he was just kind of hanging around. In this one, he's taking a more active role, and you know that's a theme that would continue through the series. I like to think they didn't mean to kill her, and she just accidentally suffocated in that dumbwaiter. But we'll never know for sure. I guess maybe they might talk about it in the comics. So it looks like JR is watching the Cube series this lazy Sunday. I've only ever seen the first Cube, which plays into our next comment from Brian, where he says he's only ever seen the first Puppet Master, but he's tried to watch all the Friday the 13th movies this year for Halloween. Only got to Jason Takes Manhattan. That's a good run, dude. That's 8 movies. You know, you're not missing a whole lot, I guess, from the rest of them. I still enjoy them, but they're not for everyone. Part 9 is pretty universally crapped upon. Jason X is looked at as a bit of a so bad it's good kind of a thing. And Freddy versus Jason is a whole thing. I like it less every time that I watch it. But yeah, I don't know. I think part 8 gets crapped on unfairly. It's not that bad of a movie, even though he takes Vancouver and not Manhattan. And he's only in the city for about 10 minutes or something like that. But I like it. He punches a feller's head off. That's pretty good. He kills a dude with a flying V guitar, I'm pretty sure. Or a chick, actually. So can't go wrong there. So yeah, what else is there to say about our cast of characters here? I mean, that Bramwell chick, Carolyn, she's okay. I guess she reminds me a little bit of Megan Gallagher from the first movie, but if Megan Gallagher from the first movie wasn't just window dressing basically the whole time, like this girl seems like a similar sort of character, but she's more actively involved in the whole thing here. Lance is just a butthole, like we said. Wanda and Patrick is a butthole. Lance is all right. He's got a furry beard. I like that dude. And he makes it with friggin' Charlie Spradling in the film, so you can't. That dude was coming up all aces until he got sliced and diced by Blade, which I guess is another kill we can talk about. Blade. Did we really get Blade properly, like cutting fools in the first one? I don't think we did. I mean, we got some good Blade stuff, but the way he takes these guys out in this one, especially Charlie Spradling, is kind of unnerving. Like he's just hitting her with all those small cuts and slices, He cuts him up good. She kind of walks in on Lance with his throat cut and Blade, I think, peeling out his little brain bits or whatever. And then he's like, well, shit, she saw me. And so he just cuts her up and that's kind of the kill. Good stuff. I like it. I like how she falls down and she's just screaming and he comes up there and he's just, getting some Blade foo on. And it's cool to see him actually like just dispatch someone completely on his own. I think in the first movie, all of his involvement in kills was in like an assist sort of a level too. Like there's that one where fucking Pinhead does all the work and then Blade just kind of finishes her at the end, So it was cool to see him earn his stripes a little bit with that one. What do you got any thoughts on the Lance and Wanda double feature kill there?
Yeah, that parts is like one of my favorite kills in the movie. Mostly since this is actually sort of like one of the rare times when a puppet kills two people in the same scene. So it's like, of course, we know Pinhead kind of has like a pretty big kill count, but all his kills are pretty much separated from one another. So, and like in this one, Blade basically takes down two people in just one scene of the flick. And
good point, dude. Is there ever any other double kill in the franchise even? Is this maybe the only double kill? No, because it doesn't count in the first one because Tunneler gets the girl under the bed and Leech Woman gets Sleazy Frank while he's tied to it. So that's a double kill technically, but it's two puppets.
Yeah, I was actually going to say like there was like later on there was like in Access Termination there was like this whole scene where Blade basically like slaughtered a whole bunch of Nazi soldiers on it.
Okay.
For
the classic series, this is definitely the only double kill I can think of. Mm-hmm. It's good stuff, You got any thoughts on it, Mikey? Were you sad to see Charlie Spradling go?
No, I'm glad because I like the puppets better. It's really good because Lance is like a nut and Blade gives him what he deserves. And of course, Blade gets more brains for more of that serum. Then Charlie Spradling Wanda comes in and he turns around and sees her. That's more brains and more of that serum. So he goes after her and cuts her up. So you know what? Blade's surviving. So I'm going to say I feel really good about Blade killing the both of them, especially Lance.
Hell yeah. Fuck Lance. Puppet's got to do what a puppet's got to do. Oh shit. I did not know that there was a Japanese version of the first Cube. I'll check that out. I liked Cube. It's a Canadian film, if I remember correctly. And the Saw people probably owe them money. But we're not going to get into that here. Watch Cube if you haven't, though, guys. The fellas are trapped in this big old Rubik's Cube. They got to use like prime numbers. to figure out which rooms have traps and which don't or whatever. It's good times. You'll enjoy it. That's a, yeah, you could look at it like that, I suppose. Dolls being kind of a prequel to the Puppet Master stuff. In spirit, it certainly is. I don't think there's any disputing that, but I could see how there could be some connection to it, I suppose. All the living doll stuff in the Full Moon universe seems to be pretty easily connected to each other if you really want to, which is half what's fun about it. So what else? We got to talk about the lady, the roasted in trolls lady, and her husband getting killed in their hillbilly shack. That is just such a good fucking death scene, dude. I love how Leech Woman is like fucking him up, and she thinks he's like whacking off in the bed next to her. So she's, what does she say exactly? She's like, I told you to go outside to do that or something. Like, I forget exactly what she says to him, but she's basically telling him like, you can't be whacking off in our bed. That's fucked up, dude. And then she turns around, she sees that what's going on, and she pretty much ends up wasting Leech Woman. I was going to pull out my Furnace Leech Woman replica just to show off what the aftermath to that is that we get a real foamy replica years down the road, and a movie on the way spawned from this scene in the film, which technically does need to exist if they're going to explain how she's still around post, fireplace incident, because all the appearances that she's in after this are in movies that technically take place prior to this in the timeline, right? Because I don't think Leech Woman is in part 4 and 5. So
no, she's not in 4 and 5 at all.
Yep. So they actually, and I'm sure it was on accident, made sure not to have Leech Woman in anything like post World War II after this in the franchise, which isn't too hard. Most of the franchise takes place in World War II when we really think about it. You get part 4 and 5 and 6 that take place in present times after part 3. And I guess, you get Retro Puppet Master, which is even prior to the war. And then you get, the whole Axis trilogy, which by its nature is taking place in World War II era. So yeah, I don't know. I like that whole sequence. I like that, it's probably the first time that without any real hesitation, someone bests one of the puppets. They do, infuriatingly enough, knock out our boy Tunneler and do like an autopsy on the little feller. And I don't know why that always like makes me upset. Like, leave him alone, you're hurting him. I don't know why it bothers me, man. But it is cool because we get to see that, these aren't just puppets that have been whittled by some old man and enchanted with some Geppetto magic or whatever. They're actual like clockwork creatures that this dude developed and has powered with this dope serum, which you can't help but see as a reference to Reanimator. I'm sure it's an intentional reference to Reanimator. I want to say that I've like read that several times and stuff, because Reanimator is an Empire property, and so they brought the reagent back for this pretty much to serve as the catalyst for this artificial intelligence, like life magic that Toulon has been able to perfect. And I like that a lot. I think it's pretty neat that they show kind of the internal workings of these puppets. I mean, they're doing like a full-on X-ray of Tunneler and everything. That's pretty cool. And I do find it interesting that they count that as a kill on the kill count video that they did for this. Is he dead? I don't think so. Pretty sure he's like fine in later movies, isn't he? Or am I tripping?
Yeah, he basically comes back in 4 and 5. So in a way, you could count he was just knocked out and just
they run his belt real fucking good.
I think more of a line of he went out of serum. The formula just weared off on him, and he just took too much damage to get back up.
It makes some sense, yeah. And it'd be a real bummer if he woke up in the middle of that autopsy. That would have made me even more sad, dude. Poor little feller. I don't like watching him get smacked with that lamp, and then they're just looking at his innards later. But for lore building, it's pretty cool. So yeah, not sure if that should count as a kill, but it's in there, so we've discussed it. What do you think of that scene, Mikey? Do you like seeing inside the inner workings of the puppets there?
I think it's pretty cool to see how they're made and how they come to life and all the mechanical stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like to see the ideas and how things work.
Did they ever really show Toulon working on that aspect of the puppets? I don't remember. I feel like they just always show him kind of like finishing them and then reanimating them. But it would be kind of cool to see like an elaborate scene, maybe just for us that are like nerds about this stuff. But it would be neat to see like an elaborate scene of him figuring out the clockwork mechanisms to power the puppets and everything.
I think we kind of got that when he was building torches. We, like, you know, one scene where he's in his little layout. Yeah, we see Torch's head, and he seems like he's actually making his little flamethrower arm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but that's really more of just him like attaching an accessory to the puppet, not figuring out like the intricacies of the gears and whatnot and those internal mechanisms. I think that would have been cool. And you always see a lot of those old European clockmakers or whatever. Like if we did a new version of Puppet Master, not like, you know, Puppet Master, what the hell was that? Littlest Reich, which I did like, and we will be talking about eventually. But like a new one, I would definitely make Toulon like an old clockmaker instead of a puppeteer or something. A clockmaker that has like a puppet hobby, you know, and then he combines the two with like dark magics to make them come alive and do his bidding or whatever. So Torch gets his major kill in the film by roasting the roasted entrails lady, which I thought was a fitting end for her since she seemed to have a fixation on the smelly smells of fire and brimstone and roasted entrails. What do you guys think about that lady taking a little toasty there? She full body burn, which is quite a stunt for a full moon movie, man. I mean, they had an actual stunt person lit the fuck on fire for a good portion of time, it felt like right there.
I gotta say, it's a really pretty good introduction to Torch. Like in the beginning of the scene, it all seemed more like it was just Blaine and Leech who went out to actually kill these two rednecks. And then Leech woman got burnt to a crisp, and she was about to shoot Blade, and then Torch kind of ends up coming in, and she's all like, "You may think you got the powers of hell on your side, but you don't know who you're dealing with." And then Torch replies with just lighting her on fire.
Yeah, dude, they literally have hellfire, so I don't know what she was talking about. She's a larger woman too. She'd have burned for a long time. That's just facts, man. It's science, you know. Us chubby folks burn longer than you skinny minis out there. What do you think about that scene, Mikey? You got any other thoughts on it?
Yes, I have an awesome thought, because good thing Torch came in, because that lady burnt Leech woman, smashed her with the pan, stepped on her, threw her in the furnace. Leech woman got burnt, and she wanted to shoot Blade, and Leech woman killed her husband to get more brains, and then Leech woman's burned, and she's looking around. Torch comes in, and Torch burns her and gives her what she deserves. So yes, that was an awesome action scene. Yes.
Basically,
I don't think they got too much brains from those people. Just saying. Go ahead, Mason.
I was gonna say, when put in the context of the comics of the concept that Torch was actually Toulon Sunday, kind of makes the sort of Torch's actions more visual, almost like he got angry about this one woman for killing his mother. So basically, paid her back.
I feel that.
Yeah.
That lady, I do think, would have wasted Blade if Torch wasn't there, though. I think Mikey's right. There would have been, we would have had fucking Buckshot Torch movie on the way in the near future. I mean, Buckshot Blade, yeah. He'd have been full of that shit.
When Torch burnt the lady, they took the brain out, and as soon as it was cooked, it was useless. They couldn't make the serum because it was already burnt. And the brain, guess what, had to be raw to create the serum. They didn't really get any brain from those two.
That's true. Like I said, just based on their whole vibe in the film leading up to that point, I don't think they had much brains to work with anyways. But and that's not a knock on rural people or what folks might call hillbillies. I've got several of those in my family. I get on with them fine. These particular people just seemed real fucking dumb, so good riddance. And they seemed real mean too. They were real mean to Camille as well for no reason. She was just asking how to get to the hotel. She kind of got shit on through the whole movie, which is why I think I like it so much that she's at the end just riding off into the sunset with the puppets, going to fuck with some kids at a orphanage or whatever, like a children's hospital. That's what the puppets should be doing, is just entertaining children. And I like to think that, as sinister as it is at the end, Camille fully had the intention of just enchanting the children with the puppets.
I think
she seemed like a real nice lady.
I think in a comic book series, they went to like a juvenile delinquent detention center or something, because I read that the kids were bad.
Yeah, bad kids were real popular in horror films for a bit there. We even got, like, was it Freddy's Dead, where they're in the halfway house for troubled teens or something like that. Obviously, they did kind of the same thing in part 3 or whatever of Nightmare on Elm Street. What else? There's a couple other, like, kids in an asylum movies that I've seen in the past, and they were all sort of from like mid 80s to the early 90s ish. I don't know what it was. And then we even got movies like Girl Interrupted or whatever that are kind of on that same trend. You don't really see like kids in an asylum movies anymore. I think it's a little, now that we're more aware of mental health issues and stuff these days, it's not something that they make light of or just, make films about as often as they used to. JR did say 6-shooter and Blade are his boys. I think my favorite puppets are always going to be Pinhead. And the second one kind of fluctuates. I like Torch a lot. I like Jester a lot. I think Tunneler, though, is going to always be the second one. I think that's what I gave in the first episode, too. I just really like both those puppets a lot. So what else? What other kills? We got the little kid, obviously, that's tormenting Torch. Probably the funniest scene in any Puppet Master movie is that kid's like, this toy is lame. What can you do? Do you even do anything? And then he just fucking burns his ass, lights him up. And that's another scene that kind of illustrates that the puppets do have a little bit of morals or conscience. I mean, it's not like Torch just fucking lights that little son of a bitch up right away. He shows a lot of patience, a lot more patience than even some humans would show to the kid. And then finally, he has no other choice. The kid's got him laid out on his back. He's still proceeding to torment him. So in self-defense, Torch burns him, And I think in a court of law, that would probably be a self-defense case. I mean, that kid was fucking assaulting the shit out of him. And he's much smaller than the kid. So there's nothing else he can do other than light him up, I'm not one of those people that ever wishes any ill on children. Let's preface this with that. But I am one of those people that gets hyped when they kill a little kid in a horror movie because it shows how far they're willing to go. If they're killing a kid in the movie, they probably aren't operating with like that governor in place. They're going to be able to do whatever they want if they're going to roast a little kid in the movie. And they deliver. This movie gets real fucking weird. What else? Are we missing any other kills? Oh, okay, we did miss Patrick. That butthole gets a nice butthole drilled right in his forehead by Tunneler, which is, I think, the best Tunneler kill in the franchise, right?
Yeah.
Go. What, you were gonna say something, Mason? Sorry, I didn't mean to step.
Oh, I was gonna. In a way, it's like one of the best. I argue that there is another kill that will be in 3 that I might argue is like actually one of his best as well. But this is actually kind a cool kill. Like it kind of starts off with him being more of an anonymous. Just when he's Patrick's like sleeping in bed, and he just goes in, and unlike with Kush, says that we actually see like the impact of the drill right into his brains, only to in the process get thrown to the wall and crushed with a lamp.
Yeah, those standing floor lamps, man. They'll fucking take you out. I feel like I've seen that in several films. And I think I actually just saw an ape get fucking bludgeoned with one in one of those Planet of the Apes movies I was watching yesterday. So they're a good go-to thing. You know, if ever a burglar is breaking into your house or a tiny puppet, just pick up that floor lamp and start swinging. I too really enjoy the fact that he goes hard way with it in this, because the tunneler kill in the first movie, he gets it to that chick in the mouth. He goes for the soft meaty bits, you know, and that's pretty metal. Not gonna lie, we all loved it. We talked fondly of it in that first discussion, but him just getting it to that guy's fucking forehead is just so good, man. And they showed like every bit of it, you know. I can't think of a more visceral tunneler kill in the series, though there could well be one. I feel like there's several times where he drills into people's legs that are nice, but in terms of like full frontal to the face fucking tunneler action, this is the kill that I always think of, and it's one of those kills that comes to mind immediately when I think of Puppet Master, like even since I was a little kid. What do you think about it, Mikey? You like that Patrick getting that butthole drilled into his forehead?
Yeah, I think he deserves it. He's an alcoholic. He was nasty, and he falls asleep. He's asleep. Tunneler climbs up, and Tunneler sees a perfect target because he's sleeping. He's staying still, and Tunneler gets his drill ready and goes for it and puts a hole right in Patrick's head. But then Lance and Wanda come in. Lance whacks him, pushes him out of the way, and just hits him with the lamp, and he's knocked out.
That goddamn
Lance.
Y'all got what you deserved. You don't dare touch that little boy, that little baby boy there. He's too fucking adorable to be spread out on an autopsy table. He was too young to die. God damn it. Well, we know he didn't die. He's just knocked out. But still, that's an egregious assault upon our tiny sweet little boy there. Yeah, I don't know, man. What the fuck was Patrick's even purpose in this movie? It's like this lady set up this whole expedition to investigate this paranormal stuff, and then it's like she just brought Patrick along to get drunk and be mean to the psychic. I don't understand, because he didn't do anything. It wasn't like Lance and Wanda or whatever, where they were kind of like running the tech and stuff. Like they actually had a job in this expedition. And then the main lady was obviously the lady that organized the whole thing and kind of, you know, obviously knowledgeable of this sort of stuff. Patrick just drank wine the whole time. I mean, I think even right before he takes the drill to the face, he's like setting down a glass of wine on his nightstand. I mean, and he was kind of mean to everyone, really, not even just Camille. Like he was sort of a dick to his sister too. So fuck Patrick. That dude's where he belongs. JR says the first monster movie, well, not a real monster movie, but a sci-fi action horror based in the Comfies in the Lost World, almost eating a little girl. That was a trip. The Comfies. You guys familiar with this film?
I think I've heard of the film called the Lost World is actually the film itself. I think the Compies is just like the name of the monster.
The monsters. I get you. I don't know if I've seen the Lost World. Or are we talking about the Jurassic Park movie? I don't think
no, it's not a Jurassic Park movie. It's like a very old movie.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Times.
Oh, he is talking about Jurassic Park. Oh, well, though, you talking about that little girl like on the beach where those little tiny like dinosaurs all swarm her ass?
Yeah, when I eat her beef burrito, that she gets from the chef.
Is it a beef burrito? Fuck yeah, dude. It's been a while since I've seen The Lost World, but I do remember like the little tiny dinosaurs swarming people, and I could see how that would bother someone. Honestly, the first Jurassic Park movie was pretty scary for its time. I remember my mom getting real scared when we went and saw that in the movie theater. I was fine, obviously, but she wasn't having it towards the end there. Yeah, those little green fucking shitheads, man. Those little dinosaurs. I'd probably rather just get eaten by one of the large ones. I feel like it would be super painful to get like slowly picked apart by those little dudes. Can you imagine how long it would take you to die with them chewing on you? Holy shit.
Yeah, I think it's along the lines of basically either they just fight, eat a very sensitive part of your body that causes you to die, or just dying of blood loss. But I know in a way it must be like a pretty slow and painful death. It's like almost like getting eaten by piranhas. Like they're not as big as sharks, but I think it's much more brutal.
And you could make the argument, I know Sam Neill in Jurassic Park is like, and you're still alive when they stop to eat you or whatever. That's probably true. But if a raptor or a shark or something is bitten huge chunks out of you or bit you in half, you're at least going to go into shock like pretty quick. So you're probably not going to feel it, you know. Those little dudes nipping chunks out of you, it's gonna take a while. This took a dark turn, but I like it. I don't know. Are we missing any other kills here? I mean, we're rapidly approaching the finale sequence of the film. I'm just trying to make sure that we didn't miss out on everything. We got Patrick in his forehead butthole. We got Lance and Wanda getting sliced up by Blade. We got the hillbilly couple. We got the kid getting roasted. And then, Camille just kind of, she just gets kind of drug off, and then she's brown and dead later in the movie. And then not so dead at the end. So up to this point, I mean, obviously the finale is going to be a highlight for all of us. Up to this point, do you guys have a favorite kill in the film?
Like I said before, I think my favorite kill of the movie was the Lance and Wanda double kill by Blade, mostly just the process of it, and kind of one of more Blade's most iconic scenes in the franchise, when he sees one at the door and actually starts running at her. They're pretty cool scene overall.
Yeah, it is. What about you, Mikey?
Well, my favorite kill is going to be at the end with the Torch, Blade, Jester, and Pinhead killing Toulon as the mannequin, because he was really gross and the puppets stood up for themselves, and Torch they damaged him, and Torch roasted him away, and he fell out the window, and goodbye.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm talking like prior to that. Do you have a favorite kill from the lead up, I guess?
Well, the same when Torch burns that lady that wanted to shoot Blade through leech woman in the furnace.
Right on. Yeah, that also a strong one. I think my favorite kill's gotta be Patrick, the tunneler kill with Patrick. It's forever etched in my brain, you know. Because like I said, it is just one of those images I think of from when I think of Puppet Master. That's like one of those flashes of images that comes through the brain, you know. And actually, you know what? That scene with Blade running towards her is kind of one of them too. You know, that's there's certain sort of things that you like when you watch a franchise like this, you just forever associate those specific images with the entirety of the thing. Like for me with Friday the 13th, one of them is Jason pushing that person's head into the fucking side of that Winnebago. Like for whatever, even though it's not even my favorite kill, not even on my list of top 10 favorite kills in the franchise, it's just one of those images. When I think of Friday the 13th, like I picture that head getting pushed into that fucking, that, you know, sheet metal or whatever of the Winnebago. It's just, you can't help it. But yeah, Patrick's kill is definitely mine. In terms of favorite characters, honestly, outside of the puppets and Toulon in this one, it's kind of a rough sell for me. I mean, jokes aside, I do like Charlie Spradling. She's fun to look at, and she's always fun in these films. But I don't know if I really have a favorite character in the movie. I guess it would be Camille, sticking with my Dana Hadley worship. You know, Camille was like a cool yin and yang version of Dana Hadley. She was like more likable. But she's just not in the movie, so it doesn't feel right to say she's my favorite character. I gotta go with, I guess, Toulon as favorite, or Toulon or Torch as being favorite characters. What about you guys? Do you particularly like any of these people that are here investigating this shit? I mean, I feel like this movie had more standout favorite human characters, where this one, it's just kind of, half of them are just there to be killed by the puppets.
Again, well, I mean, the characters are right, but nothing that kind of strikes back. We kind of go with like a sci-fi. Like my favorite character in a franchise will always be Blade, but anyway, when it comes to favorite characters for specifically this, where I kind of might give it to Andre Toulon and Torch. But Torch is actually sort of my favorite puppet after Blade in the franchise, just from just how different he is from the others. Like one, he's made of metal, he shoots flame, and he's overall possibly the most aggressive of them and the most violent.
Well, my favorite character in the movie, of course, my two favorite puppets, Jester and Blade. I'm also going to have to go with Torch and Andre Toulon because it's really cool. I like he has that Invisible Man display. It's really awesome. Torch first appears in this movie, and I like when he growls, gets mad, his eyes light up, and he shoots out the fire. And he's got the bullet teeth, which is really cool. So Torch is definitely my second favorite puppet because my two favorite puppets are Jester and Blade. Oh, and by the way, I gotta show you my army of torches. That's all the torch replicas I have. Yep, and
That's amazing, dude. Those are fucking glorious. Especially like the black suit one.
That's the stealth torch. And the one next to it is the very first torch they came out with. Then the one on the other side on the end is the Axis variant. For Axis Termination, of course, Torch was cut out and wasn't in Axis Termination. But they made that replica anyway.
See, that's what I don't get too, is like, dude, how have they not brought him back in force in the new movies? You could even do a lot of the flames, I guess, with CGI. I wouldn't prefer it, but it could be done. I mean, there's even less reasons not to have Torch now. And still, no Torch. Let's sort that out, Charlie. We need some more Torch in our lives, god damn it. If he doesn't get a solo movie announced, I'm boycotting for like a solid week or something. It won't be anything serious, but I will maybe talk some shit on social media for a little while if it doesn't eventually happen. Because what the fuck? I get it. Baby Oopsie deserved a movie. The Jack Attack movie looks fine, but I don't know if that's a character that necessarily justified like a movie explaining much. It's a Jack in the Box, but I haven't seen the movie, so I can't say much on it either. Leech Woman, I think, is a good puppet for a solo movie. I think all the puppets kind of lend themselves to solo movies, but especially Torch and Tunneler, I think, are the two that would be the most interesting ones to tell. So let's get on it. It'd be cool to see those. JR made a good point about Michael and Jason liking to squeeze people's nuggets, crushing those melons. That is a type of power you really only can get from HE double hockey sticks. I don't know, man. I think it's just it is a little bit of a shame that the main cast of human characters in this is a bit flatter than they are in the first movie. I think that's really the main weak point of Puppet Master 2, really. And the first one, the cast of characters was so diverse that you kind of liked each people for different reasons. In this, it feels like it's just a group of paranormal investigators that are in there. One lady's got red hair, kind of reminds you of the Megan from the first movie. And we've got this lady who's like a nicer version of the psychic, but they're really the only two that have sort of, I guess, distinct personalities that make them, enjoyable to root for or hate or whatever. The other three are just kind of there. I mean, Patrick's her brother, and then, Lance and Wanda are kind of there to run the screens and, make the beast with two backs. So it's you know, it's just the cast of characters. They don't suck by any means, but they're just not as, I guess, enjoyable as the cast of characters in the first one. So it just really kind of leaves the puppets in Toulon holding the bag the whole time, which I'm not complaining about, but it is an imbalance in the film that, you know, wasn't present in the first one that should be pointed out. I guess because we're going to devote the last few minutes of this for sure, the last like chunk of this, to just talking about the finale. But do you guys have just a favorite general scene in the movie leading up to this point, or favorite general scenes? Like one that really stands out to me that I've always particularly loved is where they catch Tunneler on the camera, you know, and they're reviewing the footage and they like see him on the camera, you know. There's something so fucking creepy about that. Right? Like it really for a minute makes you think like, what would it be like to be in this place and hear like that there might be like animated dolls running around, and then you actually like catch one on camera. It's nuts, you know. So stuff like that. Do you guys have anything like that, or did you enjoy that particular scene?
I think for other favorite scenes, like one scene that comes to mind is actually sort of like Andre Toulon's flashback from back in Egypt, where he performs
There you go.
that little pup show with Fisto and it ends up catching on fire and and I think another scene is basically like the aftermath of the Bond scene with Toulon hang out with Pinhead and Jester, waiting for Blade, Torch, and they don't know that she's dead. Leech wanted to come back when they
That
were
is
turning
a really good one.
Kind of showing what their whole motive is when is with the brains, when he comes up to Blade with the brain fluid. He's like, "It's been cooked. It's useless."
Yeah, you know what else I really love is that just that opening scene, you know, where Pinhead is like they're digging up the grave and Pinhead's pouring the serum in, and then those hands come up out of the ground. It's got a very Universal Monsters vibe to it. I mean, as a kid, I would have said it reminded me of Jason Lives, because it does, but that's also drawing from like the old Universal Monster vibes when they're doing that shit. So there's just something like simply creepy and gross about that I like, you know. And the hands looked real gnarly. I wonder if he was like slowly sponging up more flesh as they accumulated these brains or something, because those hands that come out of the grave, well, maybe that's why he built himself the Doctor Doom suit. You ain't gonna get much done with those hands, man. So okay, that makes some sense. But yeah, I really like that scene a lot. What about you, Mike? You got any of those little scenes in the movie that particularly tickle your fancy?
Yes, I like the beginning in the cemetery scene, because I like when the 5 original puppets are together and Pinhead pours the serum and Toulon comes back to life. That's a very important scene because that tells you they're all back together. And I also like the one scene Toulon comes back into his room and Blade and Pinhead are with that bowl with brain fluid turning into that serum. Jester's got the frown sitting in the throne. And Toulon starts talking about bringing Elsa back to life and then become their own selves and they'll be happy. That's good seeing that they're together.
Yeah, and that really sets it up nicely for the finale sequence, which we'll talk about a little bit more about in detail here. So, you know, basically Toulon is putting himself in his new body that he's crafted, which is real fucking creepy. It's got some dead mannequin like eyes on it, and it just really reminds me of Tourist Trap. I think we've talked about this a couple of different times. I mean, the way he looks at the end of this movie is so creepy that we had to even talk about it in our first Puppet Master discussion, because it's that creepy. You know, he transfers himself into it, as we mentioned earlier, by slitting his throat into a funnel that drains into the new body. And then he's in his new body. And that's this whole sequence, and the build up to it towards the end really kind of illustrates that this version of Toulon, at least, is just as bad as Neil Gallagher was. He thinks of these puppets as just a means to an end. Like, you know, I think that they did a tremendous job retconning that and creating the version of Toulon that we all associate with the series, where he loves these puppets and they're like his friends and, you know, his allies or whatever. He would do anything for them in life and in death, and proceeds to do just that. This version of Toulon very much fucks his whole racket up when he decides to show these puppets that really he doesn't care about giving them serum at all. He cares about getting himself a new body and, you know, basically shacking back up with his dead wife, you know? Like, it's never been about helping them at all. So they did all this shit that they were clearly uncomfortable doing just so that some other asshole can basically discard them once he's done with them and use all their work and give them none of the credit, kind of a thing. And they're pissed about it. Yeah, they're not okay with it. As I don't think many of us would be. You know, this dude, I thought we were setting this up so that we could all have eternal life here or something. But it's just about you, like, putting your Pinocchio dick in your dead wife. What are you doing, dude? You know, so they smash him up real good. Probably the first scene, like in the original movie where they dismantle Neil, has a little bit more technical special effects going on. Like, they did simplify some of the effects for this, but they did it in such an odd, creepy way, like making his hand shatter into a million pieces and just ooze green liquids. Everything about it was super fucking cool, dude. And it just goes to show you that you don't necessarily need as elaborate effects to achieve not only the same effect, but sort of a bizarro version of it that I honestly can't tell you which one I like better. I mean, the technical, like, special effects nerd part of me prefers the Neil Gallagher death because it is a little bit more intricate, but just the pure horror side of me really likes them fucking smashing up Toulon's mannequin body. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it, Mason?
Yeah. I mean, Toulon's is actually pretty iconic. Comic book itself, like in a way, like he kind of performs it, which way, and he basically like tells it in front of the puppets' faces that he has no use for them. He wants to use this on his, what he sees as his reincarnated wife. And it's all like he kind of passes it off like, hey, you may wither away, but at least I have my wife back. So piss off of sorts, and then they kind of decide to just get back with starting with Jester, basically just taking like the little like cup thing with the serum way, and they kind of start basically tearing him up, kind of whip it out of his clothes, causing a little leak on his leg, pinning it, smashing his one hand, and now when he gets back, he always looks like he wasn't afraid to actually fight back at them. Like, he wasn't like scared like Neil was when they all started ganging up on him. He was all like, he was ready to tear apart, and then Taurus comes in after getting hit with a fire extinguisher. Like, he seemed like the most pissed off out of all of them, and Toulon knows, like, he was starting to get scared. He's like, no, and then Taurus just lights him up, and he just flies out the window.
Your host trying to tell me what to do, Dad. Fuck you. Just
Well, I think you lost signal. You seem to have frozen up.
Yeah, we seem to lost you, Mo.
sorry about that, guys. I don't know what the hell happened there. My hotspot's still on. It just lost internet access for a minute and ruined my fucking dad joke. So yeah, the finale is great. Do you have any thoughts on it, Mikey?
Yes, of course, it's great. And of course, the puppets realized that they that the Toulon was making him kill people just so he could get the serum just to bring Elsa to life. And they realized what they're doing and what's going on is wrong because Toulon just wants to bring Elsa back. And so they decide to go their own way and turn on him and go after him and kill him, just like they did with Neil Gallagher in the first Puppet Master movie. So Toulon was just nasty, and the puppets couldn't take it anymore. So Jester takes the goblet of that serum away, and Pinhead grabs him, takes him down. Blade cuts his arm, and then Pinhead smashes his hand, crushes it, and the green stuff comes out. And he gets up, and then Torch is like, he comes in, and he realizes too, and decides to get angry, light up his eyes, and boom, burns Toulon, and Toulon goes out the window. Oh, and that Toulon makes me think of Pinocchio, and I like to call it Pinocchio in a tuxedo, because he's like a really bad Pinocchio. That's how I like to explain it.
Yeah, man, it's hard not to draw that parallel to Pinocchio. There's just a lot of that going on in this, and some weird mannequin fetishization that has always gone on with the dudes around the oh shit, the Charlie Band camp. Bless me. So I don't know, man. Like I said, I love the finale of this. I think the movie in itself has a much more nastier vibe to it too. Like at the end of this, I truly do understand the puppet's rage because, as we've illustrated, he made them do a lot of heinous stuff in this. You know, old Neil Gallagher just had him running around a hotel killing some of his old psychic friends. They weren't forced to like then retrieve brain matter from the people and bring it back to be made into the serum. He never put them in any positions where they would have to kill kids or anything like that. And you know, it wasn't also their creator betraying them at the end of the first one. And this one, it's legit their father, pretty much, in more ways than one, apparently, with Torch, you know, betraying them. So you can understand like their absolute hatred for him at the end. I think it's one of the few examples that I can think of in like horror history, like in terms of major franchises and stuff, where they retcon some stuff though, and I'm glad about it because the relationship we get between Toulon and the puppets later is so wholesome and well portrayed, and the puppets becoming more sympathetic characters is why we all love this franchise so much. You know, these first two movies, as Mason pointed out, is still just kind of them trying to figure out their footing. You know, in this, they really figured out how these movies should look, you know, but they really didn't do much in terms of advancing the way that the story should progress. Obviously, with part 3, which we'll be discussing here real soon, they took that leaps and bounds into a glorious direction that I don't think I've ever been more pleased with. Because plenty of major horror franchises have kind of taken different directions at different points. But Puppet Master course corrects in such a perfect way to where like the first movie, great, you know, great starting point. This built on it, remixed the shit, made it kind of perfect, but there's still something missing, you know. They're dancing around the idea of these puppets actually being good guys, or at least better than we suspect they are while we're watching the movies. And then in number 3, they just said fuck it. They went full Third Reich Nazi action, and had the puppets be the good guys, and forever changed the way that you could do a horror franchise. You know, you can make a horror franchise that centers on the creatures as the good guys, you know. And to my knowledge, I mean, outside of stuff where it's like on a technicality like Blade or Underworld, Puppet Master is really the only one where the critters are the fucking main characters and the good guys, you know. Everything else, it's sort of like sometimes they'll be friendly or, you know, I don't know. Can you think of another one where it's, you know, the titular creatures of the the franchise are actually the good guys. I can't.
And not that I know. I mean, the closest that kind of come to mind is Godzilla, but even then, he kind of shifts around from being the protagonist and antagonist of every film he's in.
Yeah, and when Godzilla's the good guy in a film, I mean, I guess outside of the times where he's doing like straight up campy kiddie bullshit, most of the time it's incidental, right? Like he's the good guy because he's attacking the creature that they don't want destroying the towns, you know. It's not like he's like befriending the fucking main characters and stuff most of the time. That was more of a Gamera thing. And let me tell you, it's real corny when you do it with a giant monster. I don't know why. As much as I love Gamera, that stuff is cornball as hell. But with something like Little Puppets, it really works too. Every kid wanted like a living toy. I think all of us that grew up, and then, you know, we had other shit at the time that kind of played off that idea, like Indian in the Cupboard and Toy Story later on and shit like that. I mean, I think kids even nowadays still want living toys. It's just a dream that every child sort of has. That's why you have games like Little Big Planet or movies like Nine, you know, or just any of that sort of stuff. I'm playing this game right now with my daughter called It Takes Two, where you play as these little dolls that this kid made of her parents that are about to get a divorce. And she basically like wishes them into the dolls so that they can fix their marriage by learning how to cooperate. And it's like a cooperative platformer or whatever. And it's just sort of, you know, fascinating that I think all of us at one point or another have wished we had a toy that was alive well before we ever saw Toy Story or any shit like that. It's just a natural desire of children that your playthings could come alive and like hang out with you and shit. And I think a lot of our lives were made better by having this shit as an alternative to something like Pinocchio or different things like that. You know, Puppet Master, the puppets are way fucking cooler than Pinocchio. One of you guys mentioned Mephisto. I think this is his first appearance in the franchise, right?
Yeah, yes, I believe so, yes.
Weirdly enough, I feel like Mephisto, who's not even one of the real puppets or one of the living puppets, has had more fucking like franchise involvement and screen time than Torch. Am I wrong? Because I feel like that fucking puppet shows up in a couple of different movies.
And I don't really think he really did, but more line of the poster that he appears on is in the.
You know what? Yeah, I think I'm kind of blending this with later references to Mephisto like that.
Yep.
Yeah, because in Puppet Masters 2 and 3, Mephisto's on a poster, and he's on another poster, like a different one, like a different picture in Puppet Master 4 when they first opened the trunk up.
Dude, honestly, even him just appearing on posters, he might have more actual screen time than Torch if we added it up, you know. Because he is there. I mean, Torch is just kind of in this and then appears as flashback footage, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when it comes to like sequel puppets, the only puppets that's actually an exception I actually had made frequent appearances is Six Shooter, which we'll get to when we talk about Puppet Master 3. All the other sequel puppets mostly get like one more appearance or just have that one appearance in the sequels.
Man, am I excited to talk about Puppet Master 3. I love that fucking movie so much.
And also, Homunculus, who appears after Mephisto is burned. He also has a little appearance in Puppet Master 3.
That's right. And are they not in Retro Puppet Master, or am I thinking of the flashback from Puppet Master 3?
No, Mephisto and Muggins are not in Puppet Master 3, but they have like a little scene in Retro Puppet Master, like with the people in the Desert Cairo sequence.
Right. And I don't think we ever see Torch done in stop motion, do we?
Actually, there was one scene where he was actually in stop motion with the kid who comes. I guess it was sort of a back shot. So he was with the kid. He kind of walks out of the bush, and when
that's right, yeah, there is.
Comes up to him, he basically like raises his flamethrower up like he doesn't want him anyone near him.
Yeah, that's that. I remember that now as you bring it up.
Oh, and also, he's also in a stop motion animated scene when Toulon tells him, Jester, Blade, and Pinhead to go back in the cabinet. After Torch and Blade come back after Leechwoman said, Toulon goes, and now back into the cabinet. And Jester, Torch, Blade, and Pinhead go back in the train. That's stop motion animation.
Dude, I mean, on that subject, we kind of briefly mentioned it, but the stop motion in this is off the fucking chain. Like, it's everything that you... The first one had some good stuff, you know, but this one, obviously, David was allowed to just have a ball, you know, and he went pretty hard with it. There's a fair amount of stop motion, and it does seem to be peppered in at, like, equal intervals through the movie. You know, there's not like one scene here and then you don't ever see it again until like the end of the movie. There's little stop motion shit peppered all throughout it, which makes sense because, you know, stop motion master himself is fucking doing the film. You know, we really lost a lot where Full Moon is concerned with the death of David Allen. It's not something I think the company has ever fully recovered from. The dude was such a bright spot in that early talent roster of Full Moon. It's kind of like you could liken it to like Owen Hart dying in wrestling, you know, like they lost one of the greats right there when they lost that dude, and one of the guys that was definitely primed to have a hand in shaping the whole future of the company. I think when we eventually do that David Allen Primeval's discussion, which we will fucking be doing, it's going to be epic, man. I cannot wait to see that thing. Even if it is just a 2-hour stop motion wank fest, we're going to have a good time watching it. I don't know about you guys, but when I see the stop motion in movies like these, my heart just skips a beat almost. Like, it just makes me so incredibly happy. It takes me back to being like a little kid watching like Jason and the Argonauts or whatever, Clash of the Titans, or like Harryhausen stuff, you know, with my grandpa. And then watching it in something like Puppet Master, it just feels like it, you know, it's that old school technique of animation that you just can't recreate with CGI and things like that. You know, it has to have that physical weird energy that stop motion does, and it's just magical to me. Even though I know it's just guys moving models one step at a time, Robot Chicken style or whatever. Even on Robot Chicken, it's got a magic to it, dude. Like, I just love. I'll never get tired of watching a single frame of stop motion. You know, I'm glad that David Allen got to have his movie where he really put the stamp on this shit. Because honestly, we didn't get a ton of stop motion in Puppet Master after he was gone. Obviously, I don't think we've gotten any really. They later figured out how to do some of that stuff with like CGI, I guess, right? So they didn't really need to use stop motion, but I wish they would go back to it.
It was more line of green screen than CGI. But
I feel you. Yeah. Well, still, it's still not the same, right? Like, it doesn't have that otherworldly quality to it that stop motion does.
That's right. Stop motion animation's more realistic. The CGI is just computerized.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when you watch movies with, like, I used to like a lot of the stop motion dinosaur movies that they would do. Planet of the Dinosaurs is one of my favorite movies of all time. And just tons of stop motion dinosaurs in there. They've recycled the footage for a lot of Fred Olen Ray movies, a couple of Trauma flicks. It's, you know, good. It's good enough stop motion in an obscure enough movie, I guess, that people have taken it and repurposed it for years. I fucking love that movie and a lot of movies like it. And I honestly have never really been that into CGI dinosaur movies. I mean, Jurassic Park, outside of like the first one, pretty much effects wise is kind of junk. Like, a lot of it is just CGI dinosaurs. They work, you know, but every part of me would rather watch one of those movies where it's like a stutteringly animated a stop motion dinosaur, you know. There's just something about it that gave them a weird way of moving that added to this idea that they were like these creatures from some lost time, you know, like they don't move like us. They're giant lizards, you know. And it really adds to like how something like a puppet moves, or like a reanimated skeleton, you know. I think if you do that shit with CGI, it's a little too smooth. You know, you want them to have that kind of jittery, like almost awkward stop motion vibe to how they move, you know. It completes the illusion that they're these animated dolls, you know, or animated puppets. I don't know. Yeah, the series has definitely suffered over the years from a lack of stop motion. I get it though; it takes time and money to produce that stuff, but yeah, you know, the stop motion is fucking flawless in this. I think it took what he did in the first movie and just built on it, dialed it up to 11, and then we kind of never really got stop motion on that level again until, I guess, what is it, maybe like Puppet Master 4 and 5. They had some pretty good stuff in there with Totem. I thought that was solid stop motion. I don't remember too much of it in number 3, but if anything, number 3 might be the Puppet Master movie where the humans take the center stage as much as the puppets. Not in a bad way, I mean, but it is kind of what's going on in that movie. So I don't remember a bunch of extravagant stop motion in part 3, but there's probably 1 or 2 scenes in there I'm forgetting about at the moment, maybe. You know, there's not too much to say about this movie with set dressing either, right? I mean, they're pretty much hanging out in the same spot or something that looks like the same spot. Bodega Bay. What do you guys think of the cemetery?
Oh, the cemetery scene it's pretty cool. Mostly fun in the beginning with the lightning and the pinhead digging up Toulon's grave. Kind of set up of the what this film will be about. In a way, I kind of could be cool if there was actually like some sort of like poster for the film in which like we have like the five main poets of the first, where we're just looking down at a coffin, because giving a little significant that the original Puppet Master is being brought back from the dead.
Dude, that would make such a sick fucking t-shirt with the hands coming up out, you know, and the puppets are all just lining the grave looking down it. Oh man, I would buy that in an instant. I liked the cemetery. It's just a bit odd to have next to a inn/resort or whatever it is. I mean, are a lot of people dying here? It's been a recurring thing even before the Puppet Master stuff. Like, does this inn have a surprisingly high mortality rate, or does it just happen to be built next to where the cemetery is? I don't know. I like that it looked like one of those old sort of wartime cemeteries where the gravestones are a bit, you know, rudimentary and ancient looking. I feel like there might have been some references to some other people and like directors and stuff with those things. I think John Baca has like a gravestone in there, and if I remember right, that dude's like does stuff. Maybe this is like a thing I read at some point or listened to in like a commentary or video zone or something. I don't know. Is that ringing a bell to either of you guys? The gravestones having like names that are referential on them?
I don't think it caught on to me at first, but I guess in a way the name might have been referential in some way. I just didn't look up what they meant.
Let me check it out right here, because I don't think I'm imagining it. John Baca. Well, guess he's a player for the Detroit Red Wings. So there we go. But still referential. Maybe they thought that guy was like his career was going to go down in flames at the time. I don't know why you'd reference him on a fucking headstone in a Puppet Master movie, but cool. You know, that's something we knew today that we didn't know yesterday and probably don't need to know tomorrow. I don't know, man. This movie's great though. In terms of music, it's kind of the same shit that we got the first time around. They might have expanded it with a few more suites or whatever you call them. It's just a more full version of the same soundtrack we got in the first one, man, and it rules. As soon as that theme hits, every time that I watch one of these movies, I just get that little tingle, that magical little feeling, that you can only get from a good theme song attached to a good movie like that. I don't know. Is there any other technical aspects to this film you guys feel like need to be highlighted before we close this thing out? I think.
Well, I think the graveyard scene is really cool, yeah, because it's perfect for any horror movie. It's perfect for like killer dolls going around the cemetery and killing everybody. Yeah, it's a really cool scene.
I'll say this movie definitely has good Halloween vibes, and unfortunately, with some scheduling issues that have happened, we didn't get to discuss it on October 28th like we originally planned. But I think that it does fit perfectly with the Halloween season. This might be the most Halloween-y Puppet Master movie, because it's just got that old, like, Universal Monsters classic horror vibe going on with, like, modern grotesqueries, great stop motion that also reminds you of older movies you've watched. Awesome soundtrack. But I mean, particularly Toulon's character and the graveyard scenes and all that stuff. It's got a Halloween vibe to it that I really appreciate. I think I might start working Puppet Master 2 into my Halloween specific marathons in the future, just because why not, so yeah, I don't know. You got anything else you want to add, Mason, before we close this out?
And nothing much for me, really. I guess one more factor is just how a puppet like Mephisto and Homunculus, though being pretty minor, just as minor as like Khan and Genji from the first movie, seem to have much popularity that there's actually merch around them.
Right. Yeah, I've always found that very fascinating. Like, there's Mephisto fucking action figures and replicas and shits, and he's featured prominently in like several pieces of Puppet Master fan art that I've seen. I mean, the look of the character really caught on with people. They made like a bunch of variant Mephisto action figures, didn't they?
Yeah, and they also
Yes, they made a Japanese, a clear Mephisto, a previous exclusive that he's all red, because I have all those figures.
Right, and it's just so bizarre because he's like, well, really, now that we're talking about it, he's a character that appears in a relatively minor scene. He's like just background dressing in a flashback that happens, and then he's on a poster in a couple other movies. And the dude has, multiple action figures and a full-scale replica, even though he was never a full-scale puppet in the movies. Like, because he's not. They're like smaller versions in the flashback that we see. And he's never done in stop motion. Whereas, what was it? The other one, Homunculus?
Yes, Homunculus. And there was only 2 replicas of Homunculus. There were never any action figures of him. I have both replicas with me.
But he has been done in stop motion, right?
Yes, he has.
Yeah, which is like pretty fucking cool, And again, they keep the replicas like in print too. Like they're popular enough that fucking they feel the need to produce them even more than they do some of the mainline puppets, which is just so strange. But that's Full Moon for you. If we weren't in this for the strange and unusual, there wouldn't be much reason to be doing it. I think that we did this movie good.
I was gonna say maybe the Full Moon should make a spin-off movie around Mephisto where he's actually a puppet that's alive and kills people with homunculus as a sort of sidekick / hench. I mean, just kind of solidify him as a sort of a main puppet considering how much merch he was given.
I'd be into it. I mean, they could certainly fund
one
movie with just.
Yeah, I want to see a spin-off of Mephisto. Yeah, they have to do that. Yeah, because he was kind of stringless, probably alive in that show and sequence in this movie. Yeah.
You know what I'd almost like to see them do with a character like Mephisto is because I think they're telling the story of Faust, aren't they, in the flashback?
Yes.
it would be super sick to use to see Full Moon do like a full-on elaborate sort of Victorian or early, modern era, like 20s, 30s era puppet show, like a practical puppet show where they do the entire story of Faust with Mephisto and the various puppet characters with a combination of like traditional puppetry and stop motion. Like, I feel like if David Allen was still alive, this is the type of thing that we would have had for Mephisto already at this point, where it's a pure, practical puppet show, animated only with traditional puppetry and stop motion, and they have like elaborate set effects. Like if you ever watch or see like documentation of how they would do old stage plays back then, or how they would do like top tier puppet shows back then, they would have like crazy pyrotechnics and all the kind of shit that we see dabbled with in the Puppet Master movies when they show that kind of stuff. I think it would be sick to have something like that for Mephisto. That'd be super cool. And also an achievement. I don't know if there's ever been a movie other than like Team America World Police that's been done entirely with just puppets and stop motion. Maybe you could argue something like The New Pinocchio or Mad God, but those really seem like more traditional stop motion movies. Team America World Police felt like it was like puppets and stop motion, I don't know. What do you guys think? You'd be into something like that? It wouldn't be like a normal Full Moon movie, obviously. It would be more like a cool novelty sideshow sort of art piece almost in a way. But I think that would be unique and different. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, that in a way that would have been interesting. Hey, maybe it would mess with the casting. Kind of plays a while. You know how in like some Muppet movies, like more specifically Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island, they kind of basically have list the Muppets themselves as actors. Maybe have something like that with something like with starring Blade as Mephisto.
Right. Yeah, I'm into it. Blade as Mephisto. That's a good. That's a good touch.
Yeah, that's a good thing because Blade and Mephisto have the same head. Yeah, I agree with you guys.
Well, I'm sure you could cast the other puppets as different characters in the Faust story too. I'm willing to roll with this Muppet idea. And there's probably some people out there that are like, what is he talking about? Movies that were made with a combination of puppetry and stop motion. They've at least made full puppetry movies with the Muppets, but Muppets aren't puppets. Muppets are Muppets. There's a science behind this. Okay, a puppet or a marionette is a very different thing to a Muppet, which is like felt and stitching and shit that you wear on your hand and you make do things. There's a human element in the physicality of a Muppet, whereas with stop motion or puppets, the human element is removed by some apparatus or instrument that you need to operate the thing. So it gives it that otherworldly thing that we've touched on a little bit. I don't know. What about you, Mikey? You think you'd fuck with one of those things? Like a full puppetry stop motion extravaganza?
Yeah, I probably would. It'd be a good thing to see. Yeah, I would like to see all that stuff. See all different puppets, stop motion animation, and yeah, I would like to see them like get with each other. That'd be a cool thing to see.
I wish we knew more about the Faust story so we could fan cast the puppets as the different characters right now. I'll admit it's one of those stories like I'm aware of because it's part of classic literature or whatever. It gets talked about a lot and referenced in things like Puppet Master. But I don't know the story well enough to say who the other puppets could play. I'm sure we could find roles for them though,
Yeah, as far as we know, the only character we have typecast is Blade as Mephisto.
Yeah, and you can't fault us for that. It's literally the same head. Yeah, it's the puppet by design is Blade. He's the only one who can play him. Solid idea there. We'll revisit this in the future, I think. So that's kind of it for Puppet Master 2. I think we did this film pretty solid justice today. It's a great sequel. It's a fun time. If you've not seen it, check it out, especially if you can start working it into your Halloween marathons. That'd be extra cool too. I think the atmosphere of the film specifically complements that time of year. I got to go let this dog out because he's going nuts over here. I'm sure you guys have heard it several times during this. If you guys want to share any closing thoughts that you have on Puppet Master 2, we'll start with you, Mason, do the round robin thing. I should be back in like 30 seconds.
So as a whole, Puppet Master 2 is a very well received sequel. Torch is awesome. Andre Toulon was a very cool and intimidating villain. The kills were cool, and overall it was a really good movie. So.
Yes, I believe Puppet Master 2 is a very excellent sequel. I like the way Andre Toulon comes back, and he's just about the Invisible Man, the Universal Studios monster vibe, which is pretty cool. And he unwraps his head, and it's like rotten corpse. And Torch is awesome, of course. You know, he's got the bullet teeth, and when he gets angry, his eyes light up, shoots out the fire, especially with that kid messing around with him. And that's what I like to say. And here's my advice. Don't mess with puppets. You'll never know what they're going to do. And that's what I'm talking about with the puppets. And that's why they're little heroes, and they do what they do. And I like in the end when Toulon becomes that mannequin, they go after him. And I say the puppets go after and kill Pinocchio in a tuxedo, and he's roasted away and goes out the window, and the puppets win. Really good, excellent sequel.
He's broken in half. There's a JR quote in there somewhere for wrestling for the end of this.
Yeah, don't mess with puppets, especially ones that have a little flamethrower for a hand.
That's what I'm talking about.
True. Yes. Yeah, you mess with them, they might decide not to appear again for the rest of the franchise. That's what, yeah. So don't do it, god damn it. We needed more Torch. Thank you guys for watching. Obviously, our next review is going to be for the Albert Pune classic, Doll Man. Very much looking forward to talking about this film. We are definitely going to be venting our frustrations at the lack of Doll Man merchandise when we talk about this thing. I'm sure I am not alone in saying that has been a frustrating element of my Full Moon fandom for a long time. I know I've asked you guys this before, but there's never been a Doll Man action figure or replica, huh?
No, there isn't. Never.
Nah.
And that's a fucking crime against humanity if there ever was one. I need a tiny brick Bardo in my life. He should be sitting on my dashboard every day that I drive to work. So, you know, pray for us in our aspirations to eventually get a Doll Man action figure. It's not too late. They can do it. And tune in, you know, when we discuss that fucking film. I think that it's going to be an enjoyable discussion. Doll Man often gets my vote for the most rewatchable Full Moon movie. Like, I can just put it on anytime in any mood and enjoy Doll Man, which I can't even say about something like Puppet Master 2. I kind of have to be in the mood for like tiny terror stuff. Doll Man, though, for some reason just has this perfect vibe to it that you can sit there and watch it and pay attention to it, or you can just let it run as background noise and you're going to be having a good time either way. And I think a lot of that comes down to old Tim Thomerson, man, and him just being fun to watch and listen to. So we're going to be diving into that. Also, if you have time, check out our previous episode that we laid down for Crash and Burn. I think probably our best review so far in the series. This might be a close second. I had a real good time talking about Puppet Master 2 with you boys today. I do want to apologize once again for the delay for you and the viewers. I know we had some people that were waiting to check this out, and it looked like several of them got out here and were able to do that. Having a blast with this series, guys. So looking forward to diving into these movies. And there's a lot of new Full Moon stuff that I'm super looking forward to getting into. So pretty much once, you know, our first, I forget how many exact episodes it is, something like 50 to get through the classic Full Moon era. We're going to start mixing it up. We'll do like an Empire movie and then a new movie and then something from the early 2000s. You know, we'll do it in a way where we're covering a wide spectrum of Full Moon stuff. This initial series really just has to be dedicated to the classic shit because that's what got us all here to do this to begin with, you know. But we're going to get a little more creative with the scheduling once we're done with this initial 90s Full Moon run. So look forward to that. keep following us. We're going to bring you lots of good content in the future. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for being patient with the scheduling conflict there. Wouldn't have been the same without you. And, yeah. That's it for tonight, guys. We'll see you back here real soon.